How do you video conference? CenterCam wants to make it better. That's our Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us from CenterCam is founder Ian Foster. Hi, Ian.
Hey, Fred. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. So you've developed a webcam that is designed to improve the whole video conferencing experience. Give us the overview here.
It's a small camera that sits in the middle of the screen on a flexible metal conduit. So it allows you to look past the camera at the person you're talking to while you're online. So you can create eye contact. You can see nonverbals. You can even read a teleprompter. Again, it's about the size of a dime. So you see past it. You don't really notice it once you start using it. And it does away with some of the awkward looks that we have. Most webcams are, this is a view at some point, or on a laptop, this is a view at some point. But with CenterCam, I'm looking right past the CenterCam right now. I'm looking at you, so I can see you kind of looking from monitor to monitor, and I'm not having to make those choices. With a screen-read webcam, you have to look away from someone if you want to make them feel like you're looking at them. So you give up all those nonverbals.
Terrific. Sounds like a great idea. So what's the story behind it? What prompted you to do this?
Well, I was a grad student finishing a master's in social work. I've always wanted to be a therapist. And so I was finally working with kids in a therapeutic environment as a counselor, and COVID hit, and all of a sudden we switched to remote. And so I donated an old smartphone that I had to the program. And so the kids had a smartphone that they were, Zooming on, and I was in my house on Zoom. That was the web conference app that we were using. And all of a sudden everybody was looking everywhere. I looked like this, they were looking, all over the place. And the Wi-Fi connection wasn't great either. So we had those sorts of issues. But long story short, these were kids that they were really started to do the work. We had built rapport over the first couple of months of the semester, and all of a sudden that rapport fizzled. And the connection that you feel in an online, like a in-person relationship, wasn't there. And so the question I asked myself was, what can make this better? I mean, if you think back to 2020, March of 2020, and there was so much uncertainty, and it was really hard to know, because there were big entities, the entities we trust were struggling to understand what to do and how to do it. And, and there was a lot of things were out of our control. So the question that I could control was, what could make this situation better? And my thought was, if there was a small webcam in the middle of the screen that would change the focal angle, so I could look past the camera, see the person differently with a better angle, maybe that could make things a little bit better. And so, so initially I Googled it. I wouldn't have done this if it had already been out there. So, but I Googled middle screen webcam and center webcam and eye contact webcam, and, all of those like Google AdWord, phrases and stuff, but they didn't exist. And so I didn't find anything out there that was like that. And I'm an inventor, and I've produce all sorts of little things that don't matter in the world up in Alaska for gold diving, which is another, other place that I've come from. But anyway, over 2020, we refined the model that we had. We refined the prototypes, and there's definitely some duct tape and zip ties that were involved in some of those prototypes. But eventually we got to a working model, and we launched on Kickstarter in early of 21. And the response was, we're just really grateful. People saw the vision of what we were trying to do, and the response was really good. And we knew that it wasn't just an idea in our heads. I'm sure, you deal with new tech all the time, Fred. And so I'm sure you have tons of ideas. You're not just a consumer. I'm sure you've created a whole ecosystem. So there are certain times when, you have ideas that, are these ideas actually going to be any good for anybody else? Or is this just a good idea to me and my friends, and the crowdfunding process helped us to prove the idea that it was something that resonated with other people too.
That's just a terrific story. So people might wonder, okay, you're going to put a camera in the center of the screen. Is it going to block things? Am I going to have to look around it? Tell us how it works, what the real experience is.
Yeah, I can show you. I've got one right here, so you can see it. So it's a really small USB enabled camera. And just to give you scale, this is my pinky, and I don't have big sausage fingers, so I'm not the biggest handed man. But It's the size of a dime. So you have a reference there. So it's a small USB enabled camera. The camera body has some fins on the back of it to help with heat dissipation. That's part of the patents that we have. And then how that works though is, so it's got 16 inches of flex tube. We went up from 12, which allows a bottom up, like a handstand mount is what we call it. But the original ones only had 12 inches of flex tube. It clips into place. And then let me change that a little bit. Part of the design process was making it easily and quickly customizable. But if this was my laptop screen or my monitor screen, it clips like that. And then the person I'm talking to, their head's right here. And you see past the center cam, to the person you're talking to. In conference, I usually try to put that, like right now, looking at you, I have the webcam right on your forehead right here. And so this is kind of the view that you have in a conference. So it doesn't take up a ton of space. It is there, you notice it. Wires, we're looking at potentially getting into injection molded overmolding for the flex tube, which would allow us to get into translucent or transparent material. But right now it's a black metal flex tube. So, it is what it is. There's no way to make it fully transparent and not visible. The cool thing about human psychology, just like we overlook our own bad habits, is when something's in front of us for long enough, we don't really notice it. We see past the thing and we see the person we want to talk to more than we actually see the camera.
It sounds like the sociology in you is coming
Well,
out. We shouldn't be looking past each other.
Yeah. Or and maybe there's some Jedi magic happening, like you don't see the camera, I don't know. But
so are there different models available?
Kind of look past it. Yeah. So what we're shipping right now is probably what we would call 1.7. And that's kind of, I smile because there have been, thousands of little micro improvements that we made from the initial one we shipped in the Kickstarter to what we're at now. But the basic delivery method is the same. There's an image sensor and a lens. They're separate. And there's some opportunities with that for, changing the focal angle via a lens, and also changing the focus, depending on the workflow of somebody. To answer your question, this is, still, we're calling it our first model. We're really close to a 2.0, which is a 5 megapixel autofocus camera, and it's going to be great. So we just finally got one from our manufacturer that we tested in all sorts of different lighting scenarios, and it's really great. And it's going to eliminate some of the, I guess, the DIY aspect of our current model. So being able to change a lens has some opportunities, like a DSLR camera. There's different lenses that can do different things. But the average consumer really doesn't want all of that capability. They just want the camera to plug and play and work, and it does. But anyway, it's just eliminating a little bit of complexity. So we have a 5 megapixel coming out. We're redesigning our current one to be a fixed focus 2 megapixel camera, and then the holy grail for us is 4K. And we've got a bunch of different concurrent development happening right now.
Terrific. But the one that you have on the market now, what should people expect when it comes to the image or video quality?
It's 1080p HD, and it's 2 megapixel. And so, if you were to try to create content that would be going on like a broadcast or something on a big screen, that probably wouldn't be, you'd see some pixelation. It wouldn't perform like your 4K camera would. Obviously that's what 1080p and 2 megapixel means. But in the average video conference, we get the feedback constantly that our camera performs as good, if not better, than a lot of major webcam companies as far as, clarity and focus and things like that. You do need to optimize your settings though. One of the dirty secrets within Meets and Zoom is that it's not actually optimized for HD. You have to actually go into your Zoom settings to click the HD button. And then also in Zoom, it's not optimized for, it's actually 720p, but it's actually, the automatic settings in Google Meets are auto, which is basically just whatever can keep the feed going consistently, but our camera wouldn't look as good if you didn't click the 720p button in Google Meets. So as long as your settings are optimized, you're going to receive a really clear picture. I'm not using any aftermarket software with the picture that you have right now. I have those tools, but I try to just give people a natural view of what our camera looks like with decent lighting. So this is what it looks like. So you tell me, what does it look like?
Looks good. So many people are back in the office now, and obviously back in school too. Kids are. Where do you see the demand for video conferencing gear headed?
Well, a lot of people have gone back, but it's also really clear that hybrid is more of a thing now than it used to be. People used to spend, 5 days a week at work, and now people are spending 2 or 3. And so going back to work, all the numbers that we've read here, and I can't quote any offhand, but it's a lot of people are in hybrid situations that used to not be. The amount of people that have actually begun to work from home is still astronomically higher now than it was in January of 2020. And I think the reasons for that are really clear. I mean, work travel, when you can have a remote meeting on a web conference that can accomplish the same things that, you would have to you'd spend a day getting to, say, I'm in Utah right now. So you go to Atlanta, you spend a day getting there. There's hotel rooms, there's flights, there's per diems that a corporate employer would have to pay their employee, and for a day or two, for an hour of a meeting or something, and then flying back. And the cost of all of that is just it's kind of crazy to think that we're going to go back to that place like we were. Now, there is something to be said for the in-person dynamic, and that's what we've been hoping to accomplish with CenterCam. Is just there's a dynamic that happens in person for relationship building relationships of trust, common ground, all those things that bring a team together. Sometimes some things you can't replace. And what we've been trying to do, and what our mission is with CenterCam, is to kind of take the best of in-person and the best of remote, put them together in an opportunity for people to see each other, see the nonverbals, make it as human as possible, so they're going to replace some of the magic that happens in person.
Tell me about pricing and availability.
Okay. Well, we're drop shipping right now. We just launched on Amazon. And so you can find us either through our website at thecentercam.com and Amazon. We're priced uniformly at $119.99 on either platform. And as soon as we can bring those costs down with some of the newer iterations of our product, we're going to bring that down. But that's our current pricing.
Sounds terrific. Well, congratulations on the innovations. The site again is thecentercam.com. Ian Foster, thank you for spending time with us.
Hey, Fred, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.